I've made another video on finding the nth term of a linear sequence, so I'd recommend you watch that video as well if you haven't already. So first I'm going to show you this example using the table method. It says, here are the first 5 terms of a quadratic sequence. Find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of the sequence. Now that word quadratic means it's going to be something to do with x squared, and in this case it's going to be something to do with n squared, because we're finding the nth term. First thing we need to do is think about the difference between the numbers. In this case, we're going up +6, +8, +10, +12. That's what we call our first difference. Then we need to find our second difference, and that's the difference between the differences. So in this case, we've got +2, +2, and +2. This is good news. You want that second difference to be the same number each time. That means it's a quadratic sequence. Next, once you've found the second difference, you need to divide the second difference by 2. So if we do that here, we've got 2 divided by 2, which is just 1, positive 1. And that tells us that in our final answer, we're going to have a positive 1 in front of the n squared. So I'm just going to write that there for now and leave it there. We're going to move on to the next part, which involves making a table. So your table is going to have n term, then it's going to have whatever you got for your n squared. So in this case, 1n squared. And then it's going to have term take away 1n squared. So if I just draw a table for that, n is just as it always is where you are in the sequence. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Is talking about the terms in the sequence given in the original question. So that's going to be 5, 11, 19, 29, and 41. 1n squared, you have to work that out. So for each n value, we're going to do n squared and then times by 1. So that's going to be 1, 4, 9, 16 and 25. And then term take away 1n squared, you literally just do the subtraction. So 5 take away 1 is 4, 11 take away 4 is 7, 19 take away 9 is 10, 29 take away 16 is 13, and 41 take away 25 is 16. Next, we're going to look at these numbers here and notice that they actually form a linear sequence. So a sequence that goes up or down by the same amount each time. And in this case, it's going up by 3 each time. So if we were to find the nth term of this sequence, that would be 3n, and then our ghost term, or the term that comes before the 4, would be a 1. So it's going to be 3n plus 1. Now we're ready to put everything together for the final answer. So for our final answer, the nth term of this quadratic sequence is 1n squared, or just n squared, plus 3n plus 1. And just to recap where I got all of that from, so the n squared came from this part, and then the 3n plus 1 came from this part. And that's it. This method's pretty long, but if you practice it a lot, it's not so bad. Now I'm going to show you that same example, but using an algebra method instead. First step in this method is exactly the same. You have to find your first difference, your second difference. And for this method, we're going to make a note that the nth term is going to look like this: an squared plus bn plus c. And our job now is to find the values of a, b, and c. In order to do that, you set up some equations. And your first equation is a plus b plus c equals, and in this case, it will be 5 because you set that equal to the first term in the sequence. Your next equation is 3a plus b, and then in this case, it will be 6 because you set that equal to your first difference. Finally, you have 2a equals 2, and as you probably guessed, that comes from setting it equal to the second difference. Now, a word of warning here, you do have to remember these equations and what you set them equal to. Once you've got that, it's just a case of solving each of those equations, starting with the bottom one. So 2a equals 2 means a is 1. And then you sort of work backwards to work out b and then finally c. So if we start by putting a into 3a plus b is 6, we'll have 3 times 1 plus b is 6, which means b is 3. And then if we put a and b into the first equation, we have 1 plus 3 plus c is 5, and that means c is 1. Now you have your values for a, b, and c, so you just pop them in to this equation, and that will be your final answer. So altogether, we've got 1n squared, so again, just n squared if you want, plus 3n plus 1, which is exactly the same as what we got last time. That's it for now. If you found this video useful, please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And do share this with anyone else you think might find it helpful. Thanks, and see you next time.